Parking Tyrant said, "I'm married to the chairman of the HOA. I'll park where I want." So my daughter gave her a reality check. The parking lot behind our block of flats had no reservations. First come, first serve. That was the rule. Simple, fair. But fairness meant nothing to her. We called her the Bucket Tyrant. A self-appointed queen of the tiny 5-bay parking lot, she had one simple trick to keep her self-claimed spot: a battered old plastic bucket. Whenever she left, she'd plop it right in the bay to reserve it, as if she were a medieval warlord marking her territory. The worst part? She felt untouchable. I had tried politely to talk to her before, asked her to park in a way that wouldn't trap me in, just a small courtesy. Her response? A smirk, a flick of her hand, and the words that made my blood simmer: "I'm married to the chairman of the HOA. I'll park where I want. If you don't like it, take it up with him." That's when I knew there was no reasoning with her. Most of the time, I ignored her little power plays. But last night, she pushed it too far. It started like any other evening. I pulled into my usual spot after work, relieved to find an open bay. But as I was getting out, I noticed something. She had switched spots again. Instead of parking in her usual bay, she had maneuvered her monstrous van into a new space, right next to mine. And as if she had done it on purpose, she had reversed in, leaving me barely 6 inches of breathing room. I squeezed out of my car, struggling to avoid scuffing the paint. My frustration flared. It wasn't even her usual spot. She was just doing it because she could. That's when fate intervened. My daughter, bless her soul, had just arrived home. She drove what could only be described as a survivor of the apocalypse, a car so dented and scratched it looked like it had been through a demolition derby. She parked in the only remaining space, right next to the Bucket Tyrant. But then, as she shifted into reverse, something in her eyes changed. A slow smile spread across her face. And I knew. She didn't just park. No. She calculated. She lined up her car with precision, adjusting, reversing, creeping backward until 3 inches. That's all she left between her passenger side and the Tyrant's driver's side door. The gap was microscopic, impossibly tight. And yet, still within her own parking bay. Legal, untouchable, perfect. For good measure, she made sure her rear bumper was exactly parallel to the Tyrant's. No room to pivot, no space to wiggle out. A metal tomb. We stepped out, locking our cars casually. I could barely contain my grin. "I'd love to see her try and get out of that," my daughter murmured, shaking her head. I almost felt sorry for the Bucket Tyrant. Almost. The next morning, I made sure to linger near my window. The moment she arrived, I wanted a front row seat. And oh, it was glorious. She strutted out of the building, purse slung over her shoulder, sunglasses perched on her nose. Confident, smug, clueless. Then she stopped, froze. Even from my window I could see it, the way her head tilted, the slow dawning horror as she realized the situation. I watched as she yanked on the door handle. It barely budged. She sucked in her stomach, trying to squeeze in. No luck. Then came the best part. She peered around, realizing the only way in was through the passenger side. I held my breath as she stomped around the car, threw open the opposite door, and attempted to climb over the center console. It was a struggle. Her purse caught on the gear shift. She twisted, flailed, got tangled in her own coat. At one point, I swear she nearly got stuck. My daughter, standing beside me, whispered, "Should we help?" I turned to her, deadpan, and deny her this valuable learning experience? We watched as she finally, after a full 5 minutes of struggling, collapsed into the driver's seat, hair disheveled, sunglasses askew, dignity completely shattered. She started the engine, backed out very carefully, and sped off without a glance back. She never used that bay again. And as for the bucket, well, a mysterious gust of wind must have blown it straight into the dumpster that very afternoon. What a shame. When you live by the bucket, you perish by the bumper car.